commander of Vexus of the Krell Dominion leaned back in his command throne, all four of his eyes gleaming with what could only be described as predatory delight. Oh, this was going to be good. This was going to be very, very good. Tactical Officer Brennex, tell me what I am looking at, Vexus said, though he already knew. He just wanted to hear someone else say it out loud so he could savor the moment properly. Brennex, a younger Krell with barely 3 cycles of military service, tapped at his console with trembling claws. Sir, long-range sensors have detected a human vessel. Classification appears to be non-military. Coordinates locked at grid 79 Alpha. Non-military, Vexus repeated, his mandibles clicking together in what passed for a Krell laugh. Shown a visual. The main viewport flickered to life, and there it was, floating in the black void of space like the galaxy's most obvious target, was a massive human vessel. And when Vexus said massive, he meant ridiculously, stupidly, insultingly massive. The thing was easily twice the size of his own warship, the Talon of Dominance. That size was not what made Vex nearly fall out of his command throne with glee. No, no, no. What made this absolutely perfect was the color. The ship was white, bright, gleaming, pristine white, as if someone had taken the concept of surrender and turned it into a spacecraft. And painted across its hull, visible even from this distance, were massive red symbols, crosses. The medical crosset, the universal symbol for healing, mercy, and complete and utter defenselessness. By the 7 moons of Krell Prime, Vexus whispered, then broke into full-throated laughter. They actually did it. The humans actually sent a hospital ship into contested space. A hospital ship. His bridge crew joined in the laughter, though some sounded more nervous than amused. Brennex cleared his throat. Sir, according to human maritime law, which extends to their space vessels, hospital ships are protected under something they call the Geneva Convention. Firing upon medical vessels is considered a war crime and— A war crime, Vexus interrupted, wiping moisture from his primary eyes. Brennex, my young, naive officer, do you see any human warships nearby? Do you see any witnesses? Do you see anyone who is going to report this so-called war crime? Feren's scales flushed a darker shade of green. No, sir. Sensors show we are alone in this sector. Exactly. Vexus slammed his fist on the armrest of his throne. And besides, everyone knows humans are soft, weak. They probably filled that oversized medical barge with their wounded from the recent skirmish at Proxima Station. Helpless little mammals floating around, trusting in their precious conventions and treaties to protect them. The Exus stood up, stretching to his full height of nearly 8 feet. Weapons officer called. Charge forward plasma banks. Let us send these humans a message about the value of their treaties in the real galaxy. Called, a grizzled veteran with scars across his snout, hesitated. Sir, if I may, there are stories about humans, about what happens when you back them into corners, about their capacity for what? Vexus snapped. Bleeding? Crying? Writing strongly worded diplomatic protests? That is a hospital ship, Kells. It is unarmed. It is defenseless. It is, and I cannot stress this enough, the easiest target we will ever encounter in our entire military careers. Cald's claws hovered over his consoles. Still, sir, perhaps a warning hail would be— Oh, we will give them a warning, Vexus said, his voice dripping with mock sympathy. We will give them a warning shot right across their bow, and when they realize how utterly doomed they are, when they start begging and pleading in that whiny human way, then we will blow them out of the stars and claim we thought they were a military vessel. Fog of war and all that. He settled back into his throne, savoring the moment. Fire when ready, weapons officer. Let us see how quickly humans abandon their principles when faced with actual consequences. The bridge fell silent except for the hum of charging weapons. On the viewport, the massive white hospital ship continued its slow, peaceful trajectory, completely unaware of the death sentence that had just been pronounced upon it. Or so Vexus thought. Oh, how magnificently, spectacularly wrong he was about to be. The first plasma bolt screamed across the void, a brilliant lance of superheated energy that should have been impossible to miss. Vexus watched with satisfaction as it crossed the hospital ship's bow, close enough to make any sane captain soil themselves. Nothing happened. The white vessel continued on its trajectory, serene and unbothered, as if someone had just knocked politely on a door and received no as answer. "Though," Vexus said, leaning forward, "Communications Officer Thixol, are they hailing us, begging for mercy, offering surrender?" Thixol, a female Krell with excellent hearing ridges, shook her head. "No incoming transmission, sir. Nothing. Not even emergency broadcasts." "Maybe they did not see it," Brennex offered weakly. Vex's laugh was sharp and cruel. "Oh, they saw it. They are probably frozen in fear. Called, put another shot closer. Let us give them something to really panic about." The second plasma bolt fired, this time skimming within 50 meters of the hospital ship's hull, close enough that their shields, if they had any, should have flickered to life. Close enough that any competent crew would be screaming into their comm systems. Still, nothing. "Sir," Thixol said, her voice uncertain, "still no response. No hails, no distress signals, no shield activation. It's like no one is home." "Oh, someone is home," Vexus said, standing again. "They're just too terrified to respond. You know how humans are, probably huddled in their medical bays, holding each other and crying about the unfairness of it all." He turned to his crew, spreading his arms. "This, officers, is what happens when a species builds its military doctrine around being nice, around mercy and compassion and all those other useless concepts." A few nervous chuckles rippled across the bridge. "Kells," Vexus said, his voice taking on a darker tone, "stop playing games. Target their engines. Let us cripple them and then board at our leisure. I want to see the look on their faces when they realize their precious conventions mean absolutely nothing." "Sir, are you certain we should—" Kells began. "Fire." 3 plasma bolts hammered into the hospital ship's rear section, right where the engine compartment should be. The impacts bloomed across the white hull like flowers of destruction, scorching the pristine paint and sending debris spinning into space. The bridge crew erupted in cheers. Brennex was clapping his claws together. Thixol allowed herself a small smile. Even Cald looked relieved, as if he had been worried for nothing. "You see," the X's declared triumphantly, "humans talk a good game about their military prowess, but when it comes down to actual combat, they fold like cheap origami. That ship is dead in space, crew probably abandoning it as we speak, and we'll be heroes of the Dominion for taking out a human supply line." He turned back to the viewport, ready to order the finishing blow. That was when he noticed something odd. The hospital ship was not tumbling. It was not venting atmosphere. Its engines were not flickering or dying. In fact, according to the sensor readout that Brennan was now staring at with growing concern, the ship's power signature had not decreased at all. If anything, it had just increased dramatically. "Sir," Brennan said quietly, his voice taking on a tone that Vexus would later recognize as pure, undiluted terror. "Sir, I think you should see this." Vexus walked over to the sensor station, irritation replacing his satisfaction. "What is it now, Brennex? Are you going to tell me the ship is too damaged? That we were too effective?" Brennex pointed at his screen with a shaking claw. "Sir, the energy readings from that vessel just spiked. We are talking a 200% increase in power output, and it's not coming from their engine." "Then where?" Vexus began. That was when the silence broke. The alarm klaxon started screaming across the bridge of the Talon of Dominance, a sound that Vexus had only heard twice before in his entire military career. Both times it had meant someone was about to die badly. "Energy spike," Brennex squeaked, his voice cracking like a hatchling. "Energy spike on the hospital ship. Levels are off the charts. I repeat, off the charts." Vexus spun back to the viewport, and what he saw made every single scale on his body stand on end. The hospital ship was changing. Panels along its pristine white hull were sliding open, retracting into hidden compartments with mechanical precision that spoke of military engineering. And behind those panels, in recessed sections that had been completely invisible moments before, things were emerging. Large things, weapon-shaped things, things that were beginning to glow with power signatures that made Vex's one weapons look like children's toys. "What in the name of the void?" Vexus whispered. "Sir, I'm reading weapon systems," Brennan said, his voice climbing higher with each word. "Multiple weapon systems, point defense cannons, missile batteries, energy projectors, and something big, something really big central dorsal section. Power draws climbing to levels I've never seen outside of a planetary defense platform."
Fixall's hearing ridges were flat against her skull, a quell sign of absolute terror. "Sir, we are being scanned. Active targeting solutions are being calculated. Multiple target locks acquiring." "That is impossible," Vexus said, but his voice lacked conviction. "That's a hospital ship. It's protected under human law. They cannot arm hospital ships. It's against their own rules." "Well, someone forgot to tell them that," Called roared from his station, "because I'm looking at enough firepower to level a small moon." On the viewport, more sections of the white were transforming. What had appeared to be ego modules were rotating, revealing reinforced armor plating beneath. What had looked like sensor arrays were pivoting into position as point defense systems. The entire ship was metamorphosizing from a peaceful medical vessel into something that made Vex's warship look like a patrol boat. "Evasive maneuvers," Vexus screamed, finally finding his voice. "Get us out of here now." The helmsman, a Krell named Zartex, who had not spoken since the engagement began,